Hey guys, this is AI Gaming 1776, and as you can see by looking at the screen, we're playing GTA 5 and we are at 48, 49 frames per second, somewhere in that neighborhood. What you might not see on the screen is we are using an FX 6300 processor that is overclocked to 4.0 gigahertz, and we are using a GTX 1070 that is overclocked to 2075, actually 2076 megahertz. Alright, now the purpose of this video, and now we just went down to 44 frames per second in 1080p. Here, let me show you the settings really quickly, and then I'll get on to the purpose of the video. You can pause it if you need to. Yesterday's video, I did not max these bars out. They were all one notch away. This time they are maxed out. And then the rest of these settings should be the same as they were yesterday, hopefully. These are kind of my standby settings that I use for a lot of graphics cards, so that I can kind of keep things apples to apples for my comparisons. So again, pause, go back if you need to see the settings. Alright, so the purpose of the video. Well, to put it shortly, I have been testing with i7 processors for the last year and a half. I've used a 4790, a 4790K, and a 6700K. And I've never used anything less than an i7. Less than a Haswell i7 for that matter. Less than, you know, the Devil's Canyon cycle refresh, right? Because I didn't use a 4770, I used a 4790. So, I've not used an older i7 for the game testing. I've not used i5s. I've not used any of the AMD chips. And people ask me about different processors all the time. See how we're getting 49, 50 frames per second, 51, 48, 46. This is all on the up and up. I'm going to show you at the end of this video that it is a 1070, that it is an FX 6300. I'm going to show you guys all of that, all right? Because I posted a video yesterday and people thought that I was making things up, that I was underclocking the 1070, or I wasn't really using a 1070, because I guess they've never seen bottlenecking before. I don't know. So anyway, point being, I get asked all the time how different processors will play games, because I've spent the last year and a half showing people how different graphics cards play games. And I've always used i7s that were not, either they were not overclocked at all, or they didn't have much of an overclock. And my theory with that was, well, if somebody's using an overclocked i5, they might do a little bit better than I am with a non-overclocked i7 in my videos. Or, you know, somebody's using some kind of big 8-core, what is it, the 5890, the 5960, I think it's the 5960X, you know, the big 8-core monster, and they've got it overclocked to 4.4 or whatever. You know, maybe they're going to see better performance than what I show in my non-overclocked videos. And I figured even if someone was using an i5, maybe even like a low power i5, and it was running at 3.2 gigahertz for the base clock or whatever, maybe they'd get like a little bit worse performance than me. But I felt like, to put it shortly, my i7s were good for middle of the road. That's what I thought. But the thing is I kept having people put in comments that they were using the FX 8350, the FX 6300, they were using various Pentiums, and they were telling me, hey man, you're getting like 20 frames per second better than what I get. And it got to a point, again, I've been doing this for a year and a half, where I felt like, okay, it's time for me to start using some cheaper processors and cheaper motherboards to get an idea of what kind of performance people are seeing with those systems. Because the goal of my channel, something that's really important to me, is I want to be able to show, by the way, you should see the frame rate is much higher in this area. If you haven't been noticing, it's in the 60s now. But I try to show in my videos what people can really expect. And I go so far as to, whenever I was showing videos for a long time, I didn't even manually overclock my graphics cards. I would use the factory overclock, because everything I bought was like an EVGA superclock or an EVGA for the win or an MSI gaming. So they would be factory overclocked anyway, and I would not add to the overclock because I didn't want to show like really super high frame rates. I just wanted to show people, hey, this is what you could get. But again, people kept asking me like, well, I have a Pentium and it's getting 20 or 30 or sometimes 40 frames per second less than what you're showing. Is that normal? And I couldn't answer them. I just had to throw my hands up in the air and be like, I don't know. I have not used the Pentium. I've not used the FX chips. I have not used an i5, so I don't know. And I decided to do something about it. I got an FX 6300. And what do you do when you get a new processor? The first thing you would probably do, well, I don't know what you would do, but to do what I do for these videos, to do testing, I need to see how that sucker performs out of the box at base speeds without overclocking it. And that's what I did. So I played games on it at 3.5 gigahertz. That is the base clock. And it was bottlenecking like crazy. Now you see that we were getting 48 frames per second earlier, and sometimes it go down to 44. Well, before I overclocked this CPU, I was getting as low as like 32, 34 frames per second yesterday, and I posted that in a video. And I got accused of some people in the comments. I got accused here. Let me turn this map thing off. It's starting to annoy me. So I got accused in the comments of lying about the fact I was using a 1070. I got told it wasn't a 1070, and then I got accused of underclocking it. So at that point, I felt like it's time to make a video with commentary and to show you guys, no, I'm not underclocking the graphics card. There is no funny business. This is not trying to make it look bad. That's just how it really played. All right. Now, with that said, I need to tell you, and I put this in the description of the videos. Now, because the videos had no commentary, the only way you would know is if you read the description. And, you know, just saying, maybe you guys should try reading descriptions of videos in case you don't normally do that. But anyway, in the description of the non-commentary video, I specifically stated I am using a cheap motherboard, a really cheap motherboard, a very basic motherboard, and it could actually be causing bottlenecks. And it could be, I don't know. It's a Gigabyte. I don't have it in front of me. It's really basic. It might even have SATA 2 ports. I can't really tell because there's multiple revisions of this thing sold, and some like I'll put it like this. Like, I bought it based on an Amazon product page, and they sent me a board that looks similar, but it's a different color, it's a different model number, and I'm just not 100% sure where all the facts are on this board, but it might have SATA 2 ports. And I say that because in the reviews, people who user reviews, people said that it was SATA 2 ports. On the Amazon page, it does not say. It does not say it's SATA 2. It does not say it's SATA 3. It doesn't say what any of the real features are. With that said, people in the review said it's SATA 2, and I can tell you that when I install games, it takes forever to install them, and loading times are pretty bad, so I think it might be SATA 2. Now, I am using a Crucial SSD. It's a 960 gigabyte SSD, so effectively about a 1 terabyte SSD from Crucial. I don't know how good their SSDs are. It's the silver and blue one. It's like mainly silver with a blue sticker. But my understanding is it's kind of it's not the fastest SSD in the world, but still it's probably the SATA port, I would think, is bottlenecking it. Now, on top of that, there could be other things, okay? I don't even know if the PCI Express lane is times 16, although a lot of people from Linus to Gamers Nexus to other people have kind of said that you don't need times 16 for the PCI Express lane. It won't make that big of a difference. I don't know. Point being, I'm trying to be a good sport here. I'm trying to be an open book. I'm trying to tell you guys all of the facts as I have them. And here, let me go up to 1440p because we can do that. Let's go up to 1440p, and then you can see what the frame rate is. You can look at that, and I gotta collect that up to 144 hertz. Oops. Hey, go to 144 hertz. Alright. Alright, as you'll see, we'll get basically the same frame rate at 1440p that we were getting at 1080p, which, as I understand, is kind of a classic sign that you are dealing with a bottleneck. Anyway, I'm trying to be on the up and up. And I'm trying to show you guys that everything I'm showing you and telling you is legit. And I really am just using a really crappy motherboard, which, by the way, I've only got this chip, this CPU overclocked to 4.0 gigahertz because this motherboard does not even have heat sinks on the VRMs. All right, like 4.0 is the only thing that's stable that I can do with it. It can do 4.1, 4.2, but it's not stable. Like sometimes it'll crash, sometimes it'll freeze while it's trying to boot up. And I'm pretty sure it's the overclock because as soon as I go back to 4.0, it runs perfectly fine. So the big long story I've been giving you for the last several minutes is I'm using a crappy motherboard. And I plan on ordering a much better motherboard. I'll probably get the, I think it's an Asus 770 Pro board. My buddy Keith told me on Twitter that's what he uses. And I'm not even trying to copy him. It's literally, if you go by Amazon ratings, the highest rated motherboard for AM3 Plus chips on Amazon. So that was the one I was going to try anyway. Either that or I might have been inspired to try an Asus Sabertooth board just because. But believe it or not, it's pretty expensive. And it's like almost $200 for the Asus Sabertooth board. And I don't think people using an FX 6300 would buy that motherboard, if I'm being honest. Because at that point, you start canceling out some of the cost-saving reasons you would go with an FX 6300. So, anyway, let me say another thing, all right? So I've spent a big amount of time here defending myself and saying that, if I tell you it's a 1070, it's a 1070. If I tell you if it's an FX 6300, it is. I don't underclock things. I don't try to make things look bad on purpose. With all of that said, what I do with my videos is I basically share my journey with you, okay? Your typical YouTuber would go through all of this stuff and they would do benchmarking and they would write down some numbers and then they would make a pretty short video and they would tell you like, hey, I tried it at 1080 and this is the frame rate I got. I tried it at 1440. This is the frame rate I got. And they wouldn't, whoops, I did not mean to do that. But they wouldn't show you this much video, right? And they do that for a lot of reasons. I talked about this in another video, so I'm not going to talk about it too much here. Stop your car, I want it. I want your car. Give me your fake Ferrari. Give me that car. So anyway, let me go steal this car and I'll finish that point. So a lot of people aren't going to watch this big long video where I ramble and I play a game and I show how the system's performing. A lot of people aren't going to watch that, which is why most YouTubers aren't going to record it. Okay, just being real with you. Now this is my shtick. This is what I do. This is my niche. Is I show you guys, like I don't know if this means I'm treat you like adults or not. Like in my mind I treat you like adults. Maybe you won't see it that way. But I feel like I can show you all my work. See, one of my YouTube buddies said, don't show people all this stuff. I show you guys all of these things. Do you know how many times I've been called out for my GPU temperatures in videos because people, they want to get into some kind of basically penis measuring contest and they want to say, oh, well, your GPU has a higher temperature than mine, so I'm better than you or whatever. And, I face that a lot. Like, that's one of the biggest ones. Normally, my GPU temperatures are high because I put my cards on a quiet fan profile. As long as the card is not throttling, I don't normally care about the temperature. That's how I've been the last year and a half. Now, I am going to start custom water cooling. I have the game stopped so you guys can see those numbers more easily. All right. I am going to start water cooling for my own pleasure just because it's something I'm interested in doing. I want to have some fun with it. But this whole time leading up till now, my graphics cards were not throttling, right? Like they were running at 74 degrees, 75 degrees, 78 degrees, but they were not throttling. They were still at like 1450 megahertz for the overclock on a 980 Ti. So in my mind, if the card was quiet and it wasn't throttling, I was happy. But because I show you guys all of these things, because I show you all of these numbers on the screen, I would have people in the comments all day picking things apart. And one of my YouTube buddies was like, don't show all that stuff in the screen, just show the frame rate. You know, don't show everything. But I treat you guys like adults. Okay, I try to show you everything. I have nothing to hide, and I'm trying to share my experience with you. So you can see my GPU temperature, my GPU utilization, my GPU operating speed, my VRAM usage. I have 2 different frame rate counters. If you're used to looking at the DirectX 11 counter that's there in green with all the other green numbers, if you just want to look in the corner at the big fraps number, that's there too. And then I have CPU utilization, CPU temperature, and then I have RAM usage, system RAM. That's what that is on the bottom line. Now, at the end of this video, I am going to pull up Afterburner, which will show you the driver that I'm using. It'll show you that I am using a GTX 1070, and I'll pull up CPU-Z, and it will show you that I am using an FX 6300, and I'll show you the clock that I'm running at, because I have nothing to hide. And a lot of YouTubers don't show you all this. Now again, it's not because they're hiding things, but most people do not care to see all this stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you, most YouTubers, if you accuse them of BSing, they'll probably block your comment anyway, right? They'll delete your comment, or they'll block you on Twitter. And again, going back to I try to treat you like adults, is I believe in free speech. So even if you're criticizing me, even if you're insulting me, I normally just let it be there. You know what I mean? Because I try as best as I can not to cross lines for free speech. Now, there are things you can do that would make me delete your comment, or I haven't blocked anyone on Twitter yet, but I mean, you could do things to make me block you. This isn't a contest. I don't want to have you try to make me block you or delete you or anything. I'm not going to tell you what it would take for me to do it, but I would be willing to block or delete if I felt like that would be prudent, and I'd be open about it. If someone called me out and was like, hey, you blocked me or deleted me or whatever, I'd be like, yes, and this is why. But I try not to. I try to treat you guys like adults. I try to show you all of the data that I have available to me, and I try to offer you freedom of speech. Which means, yeah, sometimes in my comments there are some rude things that are said, and you could argue that if I want a better community for my channel, I would delete those things. It goes back to free speech. I'm a huge, not to get political, guys, but I'm a huge social libertarian. And a social libertarian believes, at least in my view of it, in giving people as much freedom as you can, unless they are actually causing harm. So, yeah, there goes a big old rant there. Another thing a lot of your YouTubers aren't going to do. So, as you can see, we've been getting around 60 frames per second, or even better sometimes, even at 1440p. Let's load up that area. Oops, that is not what I wanted to do. Let us load up that area one more time where we started the game. Started this video, actually. Let me load this up. We're going to see what the frame rate is at 1440p. And then we're going to get out of here, and I'm going to show you in CPU-Z, hardware monitor, and in Afterburner. I'm going to show you the things I said I'd show you. So, anyway, here's one of the disclaimers that I was trying to get at with my big long story. Alright? I am not trying to, when I make videos, I'm not trying to be a know-it-all. Okay? I'm not, look, we're in the 50s for the frame rate. I'm not trying to say, hey guys, I'm the smartest person on the entire internet. And if I say this is how, if I show you this video, this is the only way an FX 6300 operates. It doesn't operate any other way, and I know what I'm talking about, and everyone else is stupid. Okay, that is not what I do with my videos. I am just sharing with you what happened on my test system, in my laboratory, if you will. Look, we're in the 40s for the frame rate again. There's something about this spot. We're at 47. We were at 46. Now we're at 48. Now we're at 47. Now we're at 48 frames per second at 1440p, which is the same frame rate we were getting at 1080p at the start of the video. So when I show you guys these things, I am not saying, hey, if you buy an FX 6300, this is exactly how it's going to perform for you. No, I'm sharing one man's experience on one test system, right? It is quite possible that once I use a better motherboard, this is going to perform so much better. Or it's quite possible that it's still going to be a huge bottleneck because it's still only an FX 6300 and it's still going to get a bad frame rate. All right? I don't know what's going to happen. And that's kind of, to me, what makes it fun. And what I do, again, treating you like grown-ups, is what I do is I take you guys on this adventure with me. I share my experiments with you. And some of you appreciate it, and then some of you, I think you're not used to it because other YouTubers don't entrust you with this much information, or they don't make videos that ramble and show this much because, let's be honest, this video, in 6 months, this video might have 1,200 views. Let's be real, right? My 6-month goal for this video is about 1,200 views, if I'm honest. And people aren't going to watch this kind of video. They're just not. So YouTubers aren't going to give you this kind of video. Now, I have a philosophy where I say, if you build it, they will come. I think that there's a lot of you who are ready for more in-depth videos, and you're not used to them, and you're not used to good ones. There's plenty of videos where guys get on the internet and they talk a lot, but they don't show you all this stuff. Like in the course of this video, I've discussed to you the caliber of this motherboard, I've discussed to you some philosophy of the channel, and I've been showing you in real time how this graphics card can perform. Hey, let me turn on VSync. Oh, and I dropped the controller. I just realized having VSync on stands a super good chance of making that clock go down, because it hasn't really gone down. So let me turn on VSync. And let me put it back on 1080p. Because one of the reasons why the guy thought that I underclocked it was it did go down to the 1400s. It went down to the 1400s for that clock speed where it's been in the 2000s for most of this video. It went into the 1400s. And he might have thought I underclocked it if he was like skipping through the video. But if he watched the whole video, he would have seen that sometimes it was in the 2000s, sometimes it was in the 1400s, sometimes it was in the 1800s. Matter of fact, let me cap the frame rate. Oh, this game might not have that option. Alright. I've noticed in games with a 60 frames per second cap, whether the... Look, we just went down to... Well, never mind. Whether it's a 60 frames per second cap because the monitor is 60 frames per second. Oh yeah, that's what we can do. Whether the monitor was 60 frames per second, or whether you set a cap, because some games actually let you set a frame rate cap. In some games, the 1070 will lower its clock speed. Look, we're down to 1114 for the clock speed. Now, why is that? All right. I think that what Pascal does is Pascal, if I have it set for 144 hertz, 1440p resolution, I think Pascal goes full throttle at the 2058, 2050, whatever the megahertz were earlier. I think Pascal goes full throttle, and Pascal says, hey man, you know, I need to give this thing full power if I'm going to do 1440p, and if I'm going to hit 144 frames per second, I need full power. But once you do some 1080p, 60 FPS cap, I think the card says, oh dude, I can hit that at 1100 megahertz. I don't need 2000 megahertz. And I think it actually just uses less power and runs itself at a lower speed. I've been meaning to show this in a video. So now I'm showing you at the end of this big long video. But that is a thing Pascal does, and I had VSync on for a little bit in my video that I posted yesterday, and I bet you he saw the game with the clock at that really low speed, and he thought, oh, well, this guy underclocked it on purpose, and I did not. See, I try to be fair, guys. I try to treat you like adults. Even if I get accused of being a liar, even if I get accused of misrepresenting things, even if I get accused of misportraying things, I still try to be fair, and I still try to treat everybody like an adult. I'm hoping that, me being this way ultimately has a good effect on the YouTube community and even the internet for that matter. So yeah, as you can see, and I'm going in oncoming traffic, I keep crashing. But as you can see, it's been at 11:01 now for a minute. And look at that GPU utilization. It's at like 59%. This is really annoying me. See, I don't like it when the game puts barriers up that I can't get through. Not gonna lie. I like the freedom. Alright, we're capped at 60 FPS, so let's turn it to 1440p. And again, I'm sharing my adventure with you right now, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen when I up the resolution. I'm not a genius, right? I'm not a know-it-all. So there we go, we're at 2076 for the operating speed, although GPU utilization is only at 48%. I busted my car up. I need a different car. I'll probably... Yeah, that was a mistake. That was bad form. Yeah, I don't want that car. I don't want that car either. There we go. I want this one. I want the Audi. I want the fake Audi. I want the Foudy. No, 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 no. You... Sometimes they are really good at keeping you from stealing their car. So now the video is long and awkward. That's like 2 strikes. Come on, where's a car that I actually want to steal? You know, I'm just going to take your big truck. Come here. With your trailer even. You know, the first time I ever saw a vehicle with a trailer, I wanted to drive it so badly. I was like, can I take that? And sure enough, oh wait a minute, there's a motorcycle here. Went through all that effort and there's a motorcycle. Was that thing here the whole time? That is the question. That's a great question. Okay, so GPU utilization. Are you going to go back and get your car, buddy? Let's see if he does. GPU utilization is only 59% still, but the clock speed went up to 2076, and I think it's a power savings thing. I think the 1070, when it realizes it's on a 1080p 60 hertz situation, it's like, you know what? I don't even have to flex for this. And it lowers its operating speed. I could be wrong, but I keep seeing that correlation over and over again. But correlation does not always equal causation. So we will see. Dude, he's driving angrily. I will say the game feels kind of crappy though right now, and I think it might be because I capped it at the 60 hertz. It does not feel smooth. It feels very choppy. But anyway, hopefully this video has been helpful for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy being treated like adults. Hopefully you like seeing all that info. Oh yeah, I promised I was going to show things. Let us keep that promise. Let us show the world that AI is a man of his word. Kind of like Heath Ledger's Joker. Alright, so as you can see, we're at +2. Here, I'll zoom in. As you can see, we are at 112% for the power limit. We are at +208 for the core clock. We are at +391 for the memory, and the fan has been set on 85%. So it would keep the GPU cool. Not because I care what people say about what temperatures I show, but really because I wanted to keep the GPU cool. So that I could make sure that didn't throttle from heat. Alright, so CPU Z. Hopefully this doesn't show any personal information that I'll regret showing. As you can see here, GTX 1070, driver 368.39, and come on, you saw a 2000 megahertz speed. What graphics card on the market other than a 1070 or 1080 is going to hit that speed anyway? So yes, it's a 1070. FX 6300, you can see that right here. I'll zoom in a little bit more and I'll pull this up. FX 6300, core speed, that only says 1400 megahertz. Let me pull this up over here. This is If you're not familiar with it, this is hardware monitor. Maybe other people use other programs. I use hardware monitor. And what that shows is over here, we're just idling on the home page, right, on the desktop, so it's running at a low speed. The maximum speed that it's been up to while we were playing the game was probably 4018. And then what we can do is I can stress this CPU right now. I can go over here to bench, hit stress, and then you can see it jumps right into the 4000s over here. See that? All right. So this is overclocked to 4.0 gigahertz. We are using a GTX 1070, which was overclocked. I went back to default settings to make the fan go down since we've come to the desktop. But yeah, everything's on the up and up, guys. And again, when I show you all this stuff, I'm not saying, hey, this is how all the world's FX 6300s are going to perform. I'm just letting you in on my adventure, all right? So you saw base 3.5 gigahertz performance. You've seen 4.0 gigahertz performance. And going forward, we're going to get a better motherboard. We're going to try to go up to 4.5 gigahertz performance, but we're also going to see at 3.5 and 4.0 gigahertz if we get better performance just by getting a better, more modern motherboard. All right. So that was a lot to go over in this video, but hopefully you guys do appreciate it. You do appreciate being treated like an adult. You do appreciate me showing you guys all this stuff. It's a lot of work. I mean, it'd be a lot easier. I'm not lying. It'd be a lot easier. What I could do at Grand Theft Auto 5 is it's got a canned benchmark utility in it. I could run that utility and tell you guys the number and not even sit here and show you all this, right? But again, I'm trying to share the journey with you, treat you like adults, yada, yada, yada. So hopefully you guys have appreciated it. Please like and subscribe and share and tell your friends, like, hey, there's this guy in the PC community who's willing to go through all this work with all these different components and share all this data with you, because I am. I'm willing to do all that. I'm pleased to do all that. And hopefully you guys enjoy it. So have yourselves an excellent night. This has been AI Gaming 1776. I've talked way too much, and I'm gonna go pass out. That's the plan. Have yourselves an excellent day. Thank you for watching.